Out of all the characters of Berserk, none fascinates me more than the preeminent God Hand member himself, Void. Even though he's not in a lot of manga chapters, and he has very little dialogue to date, he has expanded upon concepts and presented new ideas that have intrigued me so greatly. And I want to make a video explaining what I think Void means to the series and what he could mean from an existential level. But before proceeding further, let's give a brief introduction to who Void is and his relevance to the series. Not only is Void a philosophical man who can bend space-time to his will and read the flow of causality, he is also the only member of the God Hand that we know of who can perform the invocation of doom, the ritual that marks unfortunate individuals with the brand of sacrifice, which is basically a marker of death. But beyond these known attributes, who is Void? Why is his brain exposed and protruding from his head? And what is his plan going forward? When questioned about the ultimate goal of the God Hand, in an interview for the Berserk Illustrations file, Kentaro Miura stated, "The key is Void. You can imagine many things based on it." Well, thanks for the great insight, Miura! But, like I elaborated about earlier, there are clues sprinkled throughout the series, and I'm going to take the concepts of Carl Jung, Friedrich Nietzsche, and some scientists in this video to try to explain what Void's purpose is for the series. So with that said, let's take our creative energies and take a closer inspection into Void. To begin, Void's name is quite interesting. In the traditional sense, Void means emptiness. But let's not confuse emptiness with nothingness, or a state that is devoid of value or significance. Now you may think I'm talking utter nonsense at this point, but bear with me, because when we understand the Buddhist concept of shunyata, then the value of void/emptiness becomes much more apparent. As expressed by the Mahayana philosopher Nagarjuna, emptiness or void is an experience of the groundless movement of energy and manifest in the momentary arising and perishing of all forms of the phenomenal world. The phenomenal world of emptiness is also a contingent world, which means that events are devoid of any intrinsic separate being or of existing in their own right. Whatever is contingent depends on something else for its existence. There are no isolated or permanent objects or subjects. Emptiness, therefore, simply describes an unfathomable matrix of relationships that are connected in and by a groundless flow of energy that has no discernible beginning and no divine power mysteriously directing it to a preordained end. Notice how strikingly similar this explanation is to our current scientific understanding of the known universe. According to quantum physics, if you reduce all matter beyond the subatomic realm of protons, neutrons, and electrons, you are left with energy, immaterial energy, making the whole notion of solidity and a material universe a false one. And this is no revolutionary statement. In Einstein's 1905 paper, "Does the inertia of a body depend upon its energy content?" Einstein came to the conclusion that the mass of a body is a measure of its energy content.
Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively.
Now, does Bill Hicks, one of the great comedians of the 80s and 90s, have a point? Does consciousness pervade everything? And is the universe itself a single consciousness? The concept I'm alluding to is called panpsychism, or what the Buddhists refer to as Brahman, which is the universal Godhead of which we are all a part of. Even man's strength comes from the Brahman. The Brahman concept, by virtue of all its attributes and symbols, coincides with that of a dynamic or creative principle, which I have termed libido. Now, libido carries the connotation of being something that manifests itself in a purely sexual manner. And if we followed the teachings of Sigmund Freud, this would certainly be the case. But Carl Jung has a different interpretation of the word libido. All psychological phenomena can be considered as manifestations of energy, in the same way that all physical phenomena have been understood as energetic manifestations, ever since Robert Mayer discovered the law of the conservation of energy. Subjectively and psychologically, this energy is conceived as desire. I call it libido, using the word in its original sense, which is by no means only sexual. Before proceeding forward, let's provide a brief recap to crystallize where we stand. Void's name is synonymous with emptiness, which relates to the Buddhist concept of shunyata, which claims that everything is energy. This interpretation of the universe as energy is verified through quantum physics. On the other hand, Bill Hicks, a maverick comedian who was ahead of his time, claimed that everything in the universe is one consciousness. Now, what I failed to mention earlier is that in certain sects of Hinduism, like the Kashmir Shaivist, the concept of Brahman is likened to a transcendental form of emptiness or void. And when you consider Void's protruding brain and the omission of his sensory organs, he is the representation of the Brahman, the all-pervading energetic consciousness, the universe itself. Again, this concept of an all-pervading consciousness does have footing in the scientific world. Recent Nobel Prize winner Roger Penrose postulates that at the Planck scale, an unimaginably small state in which quantum field theory breaks down, the entire universe is composed of intangible coherence and mathematical geometry. Geometry being the branch of mathematics that integrates the objective with the subjective in perfect harmony. And it's these geometric symbols that have played a critical role in human history via religious symbology. And this very symbology is used as a means to unlock the secrets to the human psyche, and, by extension, the universe itself. Man needs a purpose in life after all, a guiding influence that allows his conscious self to feel satiated in its hungered search for meaning. A dream, as it were. Without a dream, after all, what would be the point?
Some see nothing more than life and death. They are dead, for they have no dreams.
General welfare is no ideal, no goal, not even a concept one can somehow grasp, but is only an emetic. That what is right for one man cannot in any way also be right for another man. That the demand for a single morality for everyone is a direct restriction on the higher men. In short, that there is a rank ordering between man, and thus, as a result, also between morality and morality. In other words, Nietzsche is suggesting that society should be configured in a manner to allow the higher men to flourish in all their creative glory, thus proliferating the growth of their dreams and uplifting society as a whole, even though some may be marginalized or get left behind. We must therefore permit these select individuals to use whatever means necessary in attaining their goals and dreams. Society relies on a functioning populace to serve its many needs. But for a civilization to climb the spiral staircase to heightened levels of consciousness and great artistic achievements, we need the select few, the higher men, to pierce through the norms of what is acceptable to vault the species into a new realm of understanding. This, in my opinion, is the point of the invocation of doom. To acknowledge the forward-thinking individuals in a society, and to give them autonomy to create the great awakening of a new age. Griffith's vision was not so much to attain the shining kingdom, but to transform it. And transform it he did, ushering in a new epoch in human history. An epoch that was threaded by the flow of causality. A causality that was guided by an all-pervasive consciousness, the universal consciousness, void. The new conscious culture kills the old culture, which, seen as a whole, led an unconscious animal and vegetable life. It also kills the distrust of progress. Progress is possible. Even if romantic fantasizing still uses the word progress about its goals, e.g. completed, original folk cultures, it is in any event borrowing the image from the past. Its thinking and imagining in this area lack all originality. Just as forest fires are necessary to clear the debris off the forest floor to return vital nutrients to the soil, so is it necessary for the God Hand, led by Void, the universal consciousness, to eradicate remnants of past generations, to allow the new culture, Falconia, to realize its full potential and drag the next generation of humans to their new destiny. The affairs of the world are no more than so much trickery, and a man who toils for money or honor or whatever else in the deference to the wishes of others, rather than because his own desires or needs leads him to do so, will always be the fool. Or a branded one, i.e., a bridge for someone else's dream. This world, a monster of energy, without beginning, without end, enclosed by nothingness, void, as by a boundary, not something blurry or wasted, not something endlessly extended, but set in a definite space as a definite force, and not a space that might be empty here or there, but rather as a force throughout, as a play of forces and waves of forces. At the same time, one in many, increasing here and at some time decreasing there. This world is the will to power, and nothing besides. The universal will to power signifies the state of becoming. Everything in the universe is flowing from one thing to another. There are no fixed forms. Even Void, the universal energy / consciousness / will to power, must acquiesce to the inexorable flow of causality. Of course, if one contemplates the notion too assiduously, then free will seems negligible in the whole scheme of things. But perhaps we must, like Nietzsche asserted, embrace the pain of life and redirect our conscious energies toward their full potential, forging societies with greater levels of consciousness than ever before. Then we will not only be doing a service to ourselves, but to the universe itself, as it was so gracious to bestow us with such cognitive abilities. My brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we all obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists.